In 2019, the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute calculated that BTS alone generated $5.6 billion in economic value for South Korea in a single year. That is roughly the output of a mid-sized Korean city produced by 7 young men with microphones. The figure startled even economists who study the Korean wave. It raised an uncomfortable question. What happens to an economy when its most valuable cultural asset is also mortal? Meaning capable of disbanding, retiring, or simply growing old. Korea has spent 2 decades building a tourism and culture export machine. BTS became its engine. Understanding how that happened and what it costs is not just a Korean story. Start with visitors. Before the pandemic, South Korea was attracting roughly 17 million international tourists a year, according to the Korea Tourism Organization. By 2019, tourists citing Korean pop culture as their primary motivation accounted for an estimated 1 in 4 of those arrivals. The Hyundai Research Institute put BTS's direct contribution to inbound tourism at roughly 800,000 additional visitors annually in the years before COVID. Merchandise, concerts, and content rights from BTS generated more export revenue than South Korea's entire airline industry in some quarters, according to figures cited by the Korea Creative Content Agency. And the broader Korean wave, which BTS anchored, was valued at the equivalent of exporting roughly 260 Hyundai Sonata sedans every single hour of every day. The numbers are large enough to matter to a national budget, which is exactly what makes the dependency risk real. The mechanism was not accidental. After the 1997 Asian financial crisis devastated Korea's industrial economy, the government made a deliberate policy choice. Culture would become an export. The Ministry of Culture increased its budget for content industries by more than 5-fold across the following decade. Agencies like KCTI, the Korea Creative Content Agency, were built specifically to fund, train, and distribute Korean creative work abroad. The idol industry itself was engineered as a pipeline. Talent, scouted young, trained for years in language, dance, and performance, then launched with precision marketing into carefully sequenced global markets. BTS were products of this system, signed to HYBE, then called Big Hit Entertainment, a relatively small agency. But they broke the mold by writing their own lyrics and speaking directly to fans about mental health and identity. That authenticity inside a manufactured system is what converted casual listeners into what the industry calls fandoms. Communities that function more like brand armies than audiences. The Korean government did not create BTS, but it built the infrastructure that made BTS possible, and then it built an economy around the result. In June 2022, BTS announced an indefinite hiatus as a group, with members beginning mandatory South Korean military service. The announcement briefly wiped roughly $1.7 billion from HYBE's market capitalization in a single trading session, according to Bloomberg reporting at the time. Tourism bodies noted measurable softening in so-called Hallyu-motivated travel in the years that followed. The deeper vulnerability is structural. When a country's cultural exports become concentrated in a handful of names, the risk profile resembles a commodity economy, the kind Korea swore off after the financial crisis. The government has responded by trying to industrialize the next wave. Heavier investment in webtoons, gaming, and film through funds administered by KOCCA. But no policy can manufacture the next BTS on schedule. And international fans who fell in love with Korea through one group do not automatically transfer that loyalty to the country itself or to the next act waiting in the pipeline. The BTS economy is a case study in what happens when soft power and hard economics merge without a safety net. Korea's experience echoes patterns seen elsewhere. The oil state that forgot to diversify, the factory town built around one employer. The difference is that culture, unlike oil, can be renewed. It just cannot be scheduled. What Korea did right was invest early, build infrastructure, and take creative industries seriously as sovereign strategy. What remains unresolved is how to hold an audience that followed a person, not a country. The universal lesson is this: any economy that converts culture into currency gains enormous reach, but it also gains enormous exposure. The question facing Korea, and any nation watching from the outside, is whether the infrastructure outlasts the icon. That question has no easy answer, but it is the right question to be asking.